Who dat? And who that'd be a fair question if you were watching the Saints offense last season, because without Sean Payton and Drew Brees, it was unrecognizable. And in 2023, they've added even more new faces, but will it bode different results? Let's go ahead and discuss. And what's crack-a-lackin' is your boy Broshmo, just in case you did not know. So go ahead, become a bro and subscribe. Leave this video a thumbs up if you enjoy the content as always. Let me know what you think in the comment section below. Let's have that nice, beautiful football discourse. And who dat nation, we talking about them Saints. Yes, we are. We're going to go over the coaching staff, the scheme, and the roster, but stick with me until the end of the video because I'm going to give you my prediction for the Saints in 2023. But without further ado, let's go ahead, get into the sucker, starting with that coaching staff. And a lot of this is business as usual, right? Dennis Allen, he is the head coach. He's who usurped not the right word, replaced Sean Payton after he retired. And I like that move from a culture standpoint. A guy that has been with this team for a very long time, the last 9 years. He was the DC there for the Saints. So you get some stability and consistency despite losing your head coach. Huge loss. They do bring in Joe Woods to be the defensive coordinator after Ryan Nielsen heads to Atlanta to be the DC, which kind of sucks to see him go to a division rival, but kind of is what it is. But this is Dennis Allen's defense. His DNA is all over the place in terms of this defense. It's his. And Joe Woods, I know he's the DC. He's going to have a hand in some of the stuff they do, but this is Dennis Allen's. In terms of Joe Woods, we could talk about him real quick because he's a guy that has worked under a lot of different great defensive minds, such as Leslie Frazier, Mike Tomlin. We got Wade Phillips, Vic Fangio, Robert Saleh. So he's kind of diverse in terms of his knowledge. I think last season he kind of got a raw deal there because I think he really wanted to lean into like a quarters heavy defense with the Browns and do that kind of like bend don't break. It's a very popular defense right now around the league, and it just didn't work. I just don't think it was the right scheme, or at least that's what he wanted to lean into, but then he kind of had to lean more into cover 3. I mean, you can check out my Browns video to talk about that, but regardless, like Woods is going to come in here, like he's going to have his say on some things, but this is Dennis Allen's defense. This is a team that's going to be running their even fronts. They're going to be not blitzing. They were bottom 4 blitz rate last season. They like to win with stunts. They like to win with their front 4, whether that includes like a linebacker or maybe a safety, a corner coming in as kind of that 4th pass rusher. And they want to win that way. And then on the back end, you're going to see a lot of press man coverage. And fortunately, they have the horses to do it. Like that secondary is exceptionally talented. So it should be business as usual. I mean, there were aspects of this defense that needed to get better. Like we'll talk when we get to the defense. I'll kind of talk about how like a lot of people point out this team were like top 5 in sacks last season, but they won't tell you that they were bottom 5 in pressures. It just so happens that the few times they were able to get pressure on the quarterback, they were able to finish the pressure, finish the hurry. Like honestly, the sack statistic is a terrible number if you're trying to figure out if your team bringing pressure or not. Like it just is. I mean, that's why that's why no one really uses that when it comes to when signing edge rushers. Like the big reason Dante Fowler, who's an okay edge 2, but should have never been given edge 1 money, ended up being a big flop of a signing for, I think it was the Falcons that gave him big money, because it was like, hey, his pressure rate's kind of dog water. He's not a number 1 edge rusher. Like he's not your edge 1. So yeah, that's just kind of what I have to say about that whole matter, sacks versus pressures. So he's like they utilize the draft to kind of get better along that defensive line. We'll kind of see if they do. We'll talk about again the roster, but the defensively, this team kind of like turned a corner because they were pretty bad. They were dog water up until week 11. They faced a very banged up Rams team, and you know what? I guess you know, if if you feel like your luck is down, go take on a beat up Rams offense, because it kind of turned the defense's season around, because they were phenomenal from there on out. It's not like their schedule got easier. They faced the Niners, they faced the Bucks, which, hey, the Bucks were a competent team last season. They were okay. They were fine. I know defense or offensively struggled mightily, but hey, they have some weapons there. But they faced the Eagles, they faced the Browns, so it's not like every game was a cakewalk at the end of the year. So defensively, they add parts. We'll talk about those parts and maybe where I expect the Saints team defensively to finish. Offensively, it's kind of business as usual as well, because you got Pete Carmichael, who's been with the squad since 2006. He became the OC in 2009 and been under Sean Payton. He is essentially an apprentice to Sean Payton, and what we saw last year was the Sean Payton offense. We saw, for the most part, kind of this like pro spread with a multi-power run blocking scheme. They love their power blocking, and unfortunately with their guard play last season, it just didn't work out, with Alvin Kamara kind of being, I don't want to say, like, it feel not that he's on his last legs, but he definitely felt like he kind of lost a step, especially when we got to that second level. So it's like, yeah, the run game was one of the worst actually in the league last season. And so they go out, they make a couple of additions, hoping to get, I say they make a couple of additions. I feel like I like their additions, but I feel like they didn't address the problem. Well, they kind of did. I don't know. We'll talk about the offense when we get there. But when it comes to the passing game, like, to be fair, like, since Drew Brees retired, it's kind of been a carousel of who's who at quarterback. We've had Justin Winston, Jameis Winston. There we go. We've had Taysom Hill, in some cases Ian Book. Last year we had the Red Rifle himself, Andy Dalton. And this is a team that wants to set up that deep that deep ball, but they want where they mainly want you to attack is that intermediate of the field. And honestly, I know I've really seen a lot of people differ on the addition of Derek Carr. And you know what? Yeah, let's go ahead and move to the offense. I'll tell you exactly how I feel about the addition of Derek Carr. But first, I want to give a shout out to today's sponsor, Underdog Fantasy. Underdog Fantasy is currently one of the most premier fantasy betting apps, and they got a best ball tournament with $15 million in cash prizes. So if you sign up at Underdog Fantasy using promo code Broshmo, they will match your first deposit up to $100. Remember, when you use promo code Broshmo when you sign up, they'll match that first deposit up to $100 dues. We are knee deep in fantasy draft season. There's not a better place to play fantasy football than Underdog Fantasy, but as always, bet responsibly, my friends. Let's talk about this offense. Let's talk about Derek Carr, as he's kind of the biggest addition, I would say, to this offense, because you're making a change at the quarterback position. Though they do retain Jameis Winston, and to be fair, Jameis Winston was beat up. They do draft Jake Haener in the 4th, but probably someone you don't want to start from the get-go, but he could really, like, I don't think he's got a huge upside, but the dude's a gamer. I actually really liked him. He's undersized. He's got I think a good enough arm for the NFL, and he's kind of a gamer, a guy that gritted through some injury in 2021 for the Bulldogs there at Fresno State. Oh, that's kind of funny. Fresno State. Derek Carr is from Fresno State. Wild. I just made that connection just now in my head. But let's talk about Derek Carr, because Derek Carr is going to be the star here unless injury happens. Derek Carr probably had his worst season since his rookie year last year. He was almost on par in terms of big time throws and turnover worthy throws. I don't think necessarily big time throws is a number that needs to be huge, but when your turnover worthy plays are huge, then yes, that's quite worrisome. And his were in fact pretty huge. They were actually quite worrisome, but I thought he was pretty effective downfield when asked to take shots. The problems you see is kind of in this middle of the field. being able to effectively read the defense. I feel like his accuracy honestly was kind of all over the place last year as well, as like his adjusted completion percentage was again the worst of his career since his rookie season. He was at 70.8%, which it's not a great number. It's not like terrible, but it's not a great number. Remember, adjusted completion percentage takes out throwaways, spikes, and dropped balls. So it wasn't an impressive number, but I do think that guy, Derek Carr is that guy. That gamer is still inside Derek Carr, man. I really, really do. Because I thought we saw good things from him in 2020 and 2021. So I like the addition. I like how I like how that they acquired him. They kind of called the bluff of the Raiders, where it was like, oh no, the Raiders want to trade. And it's like, man, do we really want to like maybe just kind of like potentially burn a day 2 pick trying to get Derek Carr? Maybe even first. I don't know exactly. I can't remember what the Raiders were asking for him. They were like, you know what? Let's just kind of wait on this. Let's see how this plays out. Oh, he gets released. Derek Carr, here is money. Come play for us. I love that. I love that strat. So Derek Carr, I will say this. I do think is an upgrade from Andy Dalton, because what Andy Dalton was doing for them the last season was just basically the deep ball, just throwing it deep, which is kind of wild because traditionally that's not what Andy Dalton's been throughout his career. Andy Dalton was just kind of limited. It was weird. He just wasn't throwing with the same zip. And it really felt like his timing on short to intermediate passes just was off. Typically that's kind of like his strong suit, but it just wasn't working that way. So like, yeah, they were having him gun it deep quite a bit as they kept trying to force this run game that just wasn't happening last season. So I guess let's kind of talk about the offensive line, because that's kind of where we need to start. Your run game's not going to be good if your offensive line is incredibly weak. And the 2 players I kind of want to point out here, because I don't have one. Obviously, I don't have one as a starter, and so it's Andreas Pete and Cesar Ruiz. Those guys were not good last season. They just weren't. Some would say they were exceptionally bad last year, and they were. And I tweeted this out just yesterday that, listen, I know the Saints traditionally don't bench offensive linemen. They just don't. If their guys are struggling, especially if they're guys that they've had for some time, then they're just going to ride with them. That's just kind of what the Saints have done, especially when it comes to Andreas Pete, who I think has been average to below average for quite some time now. I mean, who would have thought? A guy that you're playing 6'7" at guard, yeah, he struggles with leverage. It kind of is what it is. And if I had to bet money, if they do end up benching somebody, it would probably be Cesar Ruiz, who's on the final year of his deal, I believe. But I don't think either one has been particularly good. I would say Cesar Ruiz kind of edges him out. And I've kind of been screaming about moving Cesar Ruiz back to center, where that's kind of tradition. That I say traditionally. That's where he played at Michigan. He was a center. They moved him to guard. But to be fair, like some of the stuff he struggled with in terms of technique, in terms of just being laid off the snap, I don't think get better at guard. Maybe the timing, because if you're the center and you're late on this, you're late getting up out of your stance, out of the snap, then yeah, you're kind of dog water. You kind of dog water. So I don't know, because for me, Eric McCoy, he's fantastic. He's the best. He is the second best player on this offensive line. I almost forgot they had Ryan Ramczyk. Phenomenal. Best right tackle in football. Top 5 tackle in football. But Eric McCoy is someone who, yeah, he can play guard. Like, you can get flexible with him and just kind of see what works. I don't know why they just don't do that. But I was looking at, and we can move to this real quick. I was looking at the depth on the interior, looking for a name. Who could potentially step in if they indeed bench somebody on that interior. And yeah, it has to be Nick Saldivari, who they just drafted at ODU. He was playing tackle, but he's a guy that you look at him and he's like, I think he could play all 5 spots on the offensive line. There were bits and pieces that reminded me of Robert Hainsey or Haney. I think it was Hainsey, who was formerly at Notre Dame, ended up getting drafted by Tampa Bay, and he's been solid when they've called upon him. But he kind of reminds me a bit of him. But I mean, I don't know if you want to really throw that guy to the Wolves like immediately or in year 1. Like, they like to develop their guys, so it's like it's not going to be Throckmorton. He's just I liked Throckmorton coming out, but I understood, like, from a physical and athletic standpoint, extremely limited. As much as I could love him as a technician, it was just like, you look at his game, it's like, man, I don't know. Like, he had an uphill battle. Max Garcia has kind of been bouncing around the league. I mean, I guess that's probably likely the next guy up. Tommy Kramer might not even make the roster. They got Lewis Kidd. Did Lewis Kidd play any snaps last season? I can't recall. Oh yeah, he had a start. Okay, there you go. Wow. Looks like that one start went extremely poorly. Okay, so let's throw that one out. They do sign what was it? Alex Filstrom from as a UDFA. He was coming from, I want to say Boston College so bad, but I'm pretty sure it's Illinois. It is in fact Illinois. Okay, I thought so. And I know he tested well. That kind of got some eyes on him last year. But for the most part, he looked like just another guy in this class. But yeah, from like a standpoint, like those guards, like, is the run game going to get better? I don't think so. Like, Trevor Penning being healthy, I think makes the run game better, which it's kind of wild because they have James Hurst, who's one of the better backup tackles in the league, who's a phenomenal pass protector. But I could see Trevor Penning being a much better run blocker. I mean, he's just got the mentality. He's got the physical and athletic skill set. That's why he ended up going to first. It's just from like a technique standpoint, how he uses his hands, dancy feet. He's just not there yet in terms of pass protection. I know like injury kind of played a big role. We didn't see hardly any of him last year. But there's a potential chance that he is a liability in pass protection. But at the very least, I guess you get a really good run blocker there at tackle. Ryan Ramczyk, again, fantastic. One of the best tackles in the league. You're not going to have to worry about him. You're not going to have to worry about Eric McCoy. It's really those guards and then Penning in pass protection. So, like, the offensive line, it's like they got two studs, and you don't know what you have in Trevor Penning yet, and you already know your guard play it's bad. Like, is the run game going to get better because you added Jamal Williams? Like, I think Jamal Williams is a good fit for the scheme, but if the run blocking's not better, then no, your run game is not going to be better, or even if it is, it's not going to be that much better. But as you can see here, I have Jamal Williams as the starter. The big question here was Alvin Kamara. Will he be suspended? We got the answer to that. I think it's 3 games. Let me just confirm that. Alvin Kamara. Suspension, please. Yes, suspended 3 games. But still, I said he kind of lost a step, but he's still got a bit of explosiveness. It's just, it looks like he doesn't look nearly as fast hitting the second level, though. But still, like, he's a guy that is extremely good as a pass catcher. And, I mean, it's like, I don't want to discount Kamara and what he could do, but I think he's a good complement to Jamal Williams, who's just kind of that smash mouth, hold on if you can type of running back. They also potentially, I would really love this if they brought in Kareem Hunt. Because then I think it's like, yeah, we're moving on from Alvin Kamara. Like, we've been talking about trade talks with him for the last 2 years. I think they bring in Hunt, then it's like, okay, yeah, we get a someone who might be just as good as a... That's not fair. Someone who is in the ballpark as a receiver as Alvin Kamara. I think that's a better way to say it, because like Hunt's really good as a receiver, and yeah, he's not fast, but I mean he's a dude that can eat contact. So I really hope that they make that addition. I think that would be huge. But they did draft Kendre Miller, who I liked coming out of TCU. I did think he was kind of this like third to fourth round prospect, but he was someone who was in my top 10, I believe, at the running back position. I mean, I could check that real quick. I mean, I'm sitting here. I can open up my big board from last season, or my position rankings from last season. Here we go. But with him, it's like, first off, injuries. Like he was banged up going into the off-draft season process, or the off-season draft process, and then he's kind of been in and out of training camp thus far, or at least practices. So it's like, can he stay healthy? Can he get healthy? First of all, he was running back 7 for me. I had a top 100 grade, but I didn't have a top 75 grade, which means probably like mid to late 3rd round. Golly, last year's running back class was pretty darn good, man. Now just kind of looking at it and taking it in. But yeah, I mean, I don't know what to expect when it comes to him. I really don't. So it'll be kind of interesting to see what may happen. What does he exactly cut in? I mean, I think they want to bring in Kareem Hunt, which Kareem Hunt, by the way, just yesterday, because I'm recording this Wednesday, you're watching it Thursday. Kareem Hunt left without a deal with the Colts, so still up. I would love the addition of Kareem Hunt, but yeah, I think Jamal Williams probably is the volume getter here. I mean, if we're talking about fantasy, I wouldn't touch this team, or I wouldn't touch the running back position. If I do, though, it'd be Jamal Williams. But again, we're kind of talking about in the later rounds. Ellis Merriweather, I couldn't tell you much about, actually. UDFA, I didn't think I even had him out of Massachusetts. Yeah, that's why. I didn't watch UMass last year. I don't know. Maybe he ends up being real good. They do have a quality blocking tight end in Foster Moreau. He's more than that, and I like that actually for Derek Carr, because he played with Derek Carr over in Las Vegas. So I really like that addition. I didn't even mention the rest of the tackles when talking about the offensive line. And to be fair, looking at them, it's not worth mentioning. Storm Norton, hope he doesn't make the roster. Mark Evans was he's a project, so he ain't no way he's starting. So I guess Landon Young is the guy coming out of Kentucky, correct? Yeah, it's Kentucky. I'm pretty confident. It's Kentucky. Knew it. But let's go ahead and talk about what they have in terms of receivers, like Juwan Johnson. I really do think we're going to see an equals amount of Foster Moreau and Juwan Johnson, with some Taysom Hill sprinkled all about, because the Saints love them. Taysom Hill, and like, dude, I think Taysom Hill could be an excellent tight end, or just someone in general. Like, he's that movable piece. He could line up as like a fullback. Like, he's real fun. He could even line up a quarterback sometimes for your more tricky plays. But Juwan Johnson, I think, is developed into, he's a former receiver, put it on weight to be a tight end, and I think it all started clicking for him last year. He was second in receiving yards for the Saints. I think he led them in tutties too. But other guys they have at the tight end position aren't really worth noting. Like, Jesse James is a depth guy. They do have Jimmy Graham. Actually, I take that back. Jimmy Graham is kind of worth noting here, as I don't know how much he has left in the tank, but apparently he's been looking really good at training camp. And guys, straight up, I know I know a lot of people love training camp news, but take that sucker with a grain of salt. Like with all the training camp, like, oh, this guy's gonna have a big year, they're in love with him, like, and then we get to the season and it's like none of that happened. Like maybe here and there, but for the most part, like, I think for the most part, as long as you don't overreact to some like training camp news. Like, I think the popular name right now with like the Jets is Jason Brownlee. And people are like, oh man, this guy gonna make the roster. He's been phenomenal. And he's been really good for them in training camp. And he was very solid in the first preseason game against the Browns. But I still think he's probably like borderline to make the roster. So it's like, come on, take some of that with a grain of salt. Like, what, I had somebody, I don't know, I think it was like a rookie watch account on Twitter, X, whatever the hell people call it now. And I know a lot of people pile on this account too, but they came out or like, oh, Cedric Tillman, man, people seeing him what they saw in Randy Moss, and I'm just like, just stop. So let's not overreact. Looking at the wide receiver position, we could stay here for that. We got Michael Thomas there, who, if he could stay healthy, I think he's a good possession receiver for the squad. Chris Olave, one of the I would say the best route runners in football. He's got to be up there when we're talking about route runners, a guy that can win at all levels. He won't create much after contact or after the catch, so to speak, but he is someone that can run away from guys. Rashid Shaheed, man, disgusting vertical threat. Disgusting. Like, where did he come out of? Like Weber State or something, right? Because he wasn't on my draft radar. Fun fact, I didn't watch Weber State the year he came out, which was last season or last year. But yeah, he was a pleasant surprise because I know that they were kind of hoping that Traquan Smith was going to be that. And we kind of saw that in bits and pieces, but it never materialized. If or when Michael Thomas does go down, Brian Edwards, I think, is a solid addition. Another guy that has some familiarity with Derek Carr. So I like that addition. He had like a breakout year with the Raiders, then went on and did nothing with the Falcons. You got A.T. Perry. They drafted him in the 6th round. I thought that was a good steal. And I was listening to the Bootleg podcast, and apparently, like, what they heard, he fell because of maturity stuff. So, and that's the wild thing, man. Like, when you're watching the draft and you're watching some of these players fall, it's like, man, I really like these guys too. And it's like, we don't get the full medicals sometimes, or at least until after, or like when it's happening, you'll be like, oh, maybe there's some medicals going on with him. And then after the fact, we find out, okay, there were medicals, or this mature. Apparently he didn't interview well. I don't know. I guess. So that's kind of wild. But what you have in A.T. Perry is someone who I think is pretty darn solid as a receiver. He's got that huge wingspan. He's got great length, huge catch radius. I think for a bigger receiver, he's got pretty good feet. I would love to see a bit more awareness and from him. But at the Shrine, man, he showed off some really good route running chops. His ability to get leverage with ease just because of his size, but just to understand how to achieve that. Looking at the remainder, in all honesty, those are probably the 6 guys they keep. Keith Kirkwood is a guy that just feels like he's been around the Saints for forever now. Might be a long shot to make the roster if they hold on to 6. Like, it's like who can unseat Traquan Smith? James Washington's a good addition potentially, maybe to overtake that. I like Shaquan Davis, who they got out of, was it South Carolina State as a UDFA. Probably going to be a practice squad guy, but they have him, and I like that. Kiki QT, hey, So I remember that cat having a really good rookie year as a slot receiver, and then injuries just crushed him from there on out. Kawan Baker's someone who's been on the practice squad since being drafted in 2021 out of South Alabama. He was more so someone who was more of a vertical, maybe contested catch guy, but that's got good speed, 6 foot 215. So the size ain't bad, but another long shot to make the roster at this point. So it'll be interesting to see who that 6th guy is, but my money's probably on Tre'Quan Smith. So like offensively, I think I kind of said my piece here, what I think about them. I think they're mid at best. The question is Carr an upgrade? Ultimately, I do think he is an upgrade. How much better? I don't think he's like top 12, but I think he could flirt with like a top 15 quarterback in the league. I know he was bad last season, but if you look at the prior 2 seasons, I thought he was solid. I thought he was good. So we'll see how it goes here. Unfortunately, I do think the run game is not going to be nearly I think it's going to be much of the same as we saw last season. Even with the addition of like Jamal Williams, I don't think we're going to see much difference. I think this team's probably going to struggle to run the football consistently. It might be marginally better, but if it is, it's not because of their guard play. It's just not. So let's go ahead and move on to the defense, because this is actually what I wanted to talk the most about. They made a lot of additions on this defensive line. Like I said, this defense kind of turned the corner at week 11 last season. They were one of the better run defending teams in football. The secondary was just really, really good. And let's start with the defensive line. The pressure rate was dog water. It just was. Their top pressure guy last season, it was Cameron Jordan, but it was only 37 pressures on 468 snaps. That's a really bad number. I mean, just for comparison, you have Marcus Davenport, who almost had half that number in terms of pass rush and snaps, and had only three less pressures than Jordan. Carl Granderson, someone who they've had for feels like a while now. When was he drafted? Was it 2019? Or no, he was UDFA, excuse me. 2019. He had almost half of the pass rush snaps as Cameron Jordan, and he came out with 22 pressures. So another guy who probably had a slightly better pass rush win rate, but was more of when he did get pressure, he was able to finish. He had 8 sacks last season. But someone that they've quietly been trying to develop, who has seen an increase in snaps every year since coming to the league in 2019. He probably is the full-time starter, but I think we're going to be in a deep rotation here. But what Carl Granderson does bring to the squad is his ability to play the run exceptionally well. 34 defensive stops, which if you don't know, those are just stops that result in no gain or negative gains. So it's not negative yards. Can't be a gain if it's negative, right? Cameron Jordan, I do think he's coming to the end of the road, and I think if you can get him in a rotation role, then you're in a better place. So I think he can be effective in that. Or, I mean, he's such a good run defender as well that, like, maybe have him just as an early down guy, and then bring in your horses. Bring in Isaiah Foskey, who they drafted in the 2nd round, who not the bendiest dude, but in terms of straight line speed, darn scary. He's got good length. I thought he got better at figuring out how to use his hands. And I mean, there's that highlight at the Senior Bowl where he just put Ryan Haynes, freaking Dolphins drafting Ryan Haynes, fins up, baby. Put Ryan Haynes on his butt, on his keister. So I really, pardon me, loved the addition there. Looking at the remainder of the depth, you got I'm not gonna butcher his name, but he came over from Kansas City a couple of years ago. He's fine depth. Like, if he's a starter, you're in trouble. But if he's like your edge 4, there we go, 4, then I'm cool with it. Peyton Turner hasn't really developed the way that they want. To be fair, hasn't really seen the field too much, but I'm kind of curious if we'll see more of him, because I thought he was relatively solid when he did see the field last season. But do they see him as anything more than a someone you bring in on passing downs? That's where I probably think they where they see Peyton Turner as more of a passing down type of guy. Looking at the interior, they bring in some big bodies in the form of Nathan Shepard at 315, and then Colin Saunders at, what is he, like 330? 324. It's close. So big boys that I think are going to be solid run stuffers. Saunders had a decent role there in Kansas City in the rotation. Malcolm Roach is a solid player. Good depth there. Brian Brazil, obviously, who you're kind of hoping to be the star, former 5-star recruit there at Clemson. Had a huge freshman season, tore his ACL in 2021, and then 2022. Yeah, the production was kind of lacking, but Dabo Swinney even came out and said, it was like, yeah, he was more of a can opener for our defense, and he enabled a lot of pressure for other guys. But also, like, he had the was it a liver thing? I don't know. It was like a one-time, like, he missed the game because of sickness or maybe a liver thing. Then also, obviously, if you're not familiar, he had tragedy happen in his family. So, like, there was a lot going on in 2022 for him. But the talent's there, man. Great athlete, good strength, good power. You just kind of got to, like, hone in on some stuff with him. But I expect him to be heavily utilized in the rotation. Probably outsnaps either Nathan Shepard or Kalen Saunders. Prince Emil out of Penn, right? He was someone who tested out really well. Oh, excuse me. Here we go. Yeah, out of Pennsylvania, out of Penn. He was someone who tested out really well a couple of years ago. But there's Jaron Cage, who some people really liked out of Ohio State, I believe. I mean, I thought he was fine. UDFA, that sounded right to me. All in all, like, there's a bunch of guys, but there is no the guy. That's the thing. And I don't know. We'll see how it works here. I mean, I expect the pressure rate to be better than it was last season. But the question, I don't think they're going to be another bottom 5 team in terms of pressure. But how much better will it be? Now going to the linebacker position, Demario Davis has been phenomenal since moving over from the Jets, all of, like, what, that had to be like 6, 7, 8 years ago. Feels like such a long time now, because he's been in the league for a hot minute. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 years ago. He's just been phenomenal. I mean, he is right now 34 going on 35. You gotta expect Father Time's gonna catch up with him someday, right? So I don't know. We'll see until it happens. Then yeah, you got one of a top 15 linebacker in the league. Peter Werner is a very good athlete he's just solid. He's just solid. I don't think he's like a world beater, but like I don't think he could be a top 10 to 15 linebacker in the league, but he is a very good starter. Very good starter. They have a couple of lighter weight guys here on the roster that can fly around in terms of depth, which let's jump back to the screen. DeMarco Jackson, who was originally there at Cincinnati. Nefi Sewell, who signed as a UDFA in 2022. Man, I mean, they still got Zach Bond. They ain't getting nothing from Zach Bond. I'm just going to say that right now. Zach Bond's going to hit free agency after this season. Ty Summers, like, honestly, there's no, like, the depth here is kind of trash. Ryan Conley, like, if he could stay healthy, that could be the guy. They got two actually UDFAs that I really like. First, Anthony Orji out of Vandy, who tested so well, way better than I thought. Like, I knew he was a good athlete. I didn't think he was that good, or at least that fast. But if he was someone who was exceptionally good against the run, and for a bit of a thumper, had better than you expected coverage skills at Vandy. Don't know how he goes undrafted. Like, I think I had him and, who was the guy out of Tennessee? I can't think of his name off the top of my head. But I had those two guys I had as like midday 3 or 5th rounders. And I thought they were exceptionally solid. I think both of them end up being UDFAs. But he might be someone to watch out for his depth, who might see some snaps this year. But I mean, he's a rookie linebacker. Typically, those guys take time to just figure out the game. Like, linebacker is a tough position to learn and get right in today's NFL, and that's why it's not one you see usually highly drafted nowadays. I think we only saw one linebacker drafted in the first round last year. Then we got Nick Anderson here. I loved Dorian Williams. I loved that pair at Tulane. Like, Dorian Williams, I was a huge fan of, had a 3rd round grade on him. He ends up going to the Bills in the 3rd round, I believe. And Nick Anderson, I knew that just based on his lack of height, being a bit lighter in the pants, as a linebacker, that he was probably unlikely to get drafted, but I was still a huge fan of him. Like, he flies around the field, plays with a big motor. He's got that dog in him to where he's not scared to come up in the box and take on guys, but at a smaller height, smaller size, that he's probably going to struggle to disengage. But like, I think instantly he could be a really good special teamer. And to be fair, like, honestly, like, in DeMarco Jackson, Nefi Sewell, I don't know if I'd hold on to. You gotta have some guys who have a little experience in the NFL. But to be fair, that ain't saying much about Nefi Sewell. I mean, how many that cat probably didn't even taste or touch the field last season. He had all of one defensive snap last year. That's what I thought. So, I mean, it's basically a rookie. It's kind of wild that you look here and, like, outside of Ryan Conley, again, kind of injuries kind of like played a big role in why he's kind of bounced around the league. But Ty Summers is probably the most experienced backup linebacker here. That's not great, but it's a good. Your two starters are very, very good. Moving to the secondary, and this is where the team shines. They are phenomenal at secondary. It's kind of a toss-up for me who starts probably on the outside between Paulson Adebo and Alontae Taylor, both young corners who I thought had similar play last season. When you look at Adebo, he allowed a reception rate of almost 70%. Alontae was at 45%. So, like, to be fair, like, Taylor had the much better completion rate, but they both had 7 or more pass breakups. So yeah, I think that's why I ultimately gave the nod to Taylor. That and Taylor is the younger guy, but I mean, I imagine they're kind of hoping both these guys end up being their next corners up, because Bradley Roby is getting up there in years. I imagine, right? Feels like a, because I remember him being with Denver, then he had a brief stay in Houston. Like, he's gotta be up there. And it's not like his play was that good last year. It really wasn't. Yeah, he's 31. And he was mainly playing, in the slot. He split time outside and in the slot. There might be a good case for Lonnie Johnson, who's played really everywhere in the secondary. Initially, was he at Houston? I thought he was playing really well at safety. Goes to Tennessee, kind of moves back to corner, but he literally could play anywhere. I think in the secondary, Uga Amadi, I don't think makes a squad. Let's actually, here, let me jump to this so y'all see who I'm talking about. I don't think Amadi makes a squad. He's just not been good in the league. They got Troy Pride Jr. I remember when he was supposed to be a good starter for the Panthers. That didn't work out. So if you're looking at Isaac Yiadom, has not been good in the league ever, as far as I remember. But Lonnie Johnson's a really, really good addition here. So they got Johnson, Roby, you got Lattimore, Taylor, Debo. You probably hold on to one more. Is that maybe Anthony Johnson's that guy? Because he's another one that's probably a good press man. Someone who didn't test fast. Obviously, he was like 4.70. So like, if you're gonna lack speed, then you're gonna need to put hands on receivers. So maybe he sticks with this squad. Troy Pride Jr. could be a case too. It could honestly, they probably go with Yiadom, who just has, at least he has more experience than those guys. So it's safety, solid group. Marcus May played really good for this squad in the 10 games he played, and I thought he was very good addition there. I mean, of course, you're gonna have a hard time replacing Marcus Williams. Marcus Williams was, I would dare say, a top 10 safety in the league, but I'm kind of a mark for him. Like, that dude just has rare range for the position. But I think Marcus May is pretty underrated in the league. JT Gray, his backup, is more of a special teamer. They have Smoke Monday. That was a great draft name, but hasn't really shown much since. You got the Honey Badger, who is just phenomenal in the box and will continue to do that. That's the role he's going to play. He's either going to be lining up in the slot or playing more of a box role, which kind of lends the question, if they do go with 3 safety sets, who's the next safety in? I think Jordan Howden, there could be a good case to be made for that, because he was a good pickup in the 5th. I like the build. And he was asked to wear a lot of different hats there at Minnesota, and I felt like it's unfortunate because, like, yeah, he got outshined by like Taylor Nubbin, but Nubbin's going to be like an easy day 2 guy, I think. Like, Nubbin's just really good. But I think in terms of like the mental aspect of the game, I thought Howden was more put together. He just didn't have like the size, athleticism, and length of Nubbin, but Nubbin's also he's kind of bonkers in that regard. But yeah, he probably makes the roster immediately be a really good special teamer, and honestly could end up seeing time. Really could. Jonathan Abram probably doesn't make the squad. He's just a box guy. That's about it. But like, they got names for days. They legitimately got names for days. They go probably 1, 2, 3, 4. They're 5 deep at corner. You love to see it. They got 2 really good safeties with potentially promising rookie, and a solid special teamer who could step in and play if you need him to. They didn't really last season, but when he did step, like, really, he just came in more as like a dime backer role sometimes. But like, yeah, Gray easily makes a squad. So maybe Gray is the guy that they have coming in if they do like a 3 safety set and whatnot. But still, I'm hesitant with this defense. And it just stems from, can they get pressure consistently? They just don't have that guy on the defensive line. Cameron Jordan, he's up there in years. He's slowing down. It's to be expected at that age. I mean, yeah, now you're a little deeper, but you don't know if Foskey could be that guy. Granderson, I don't think, like, again, this is a former UDFA that slowly been given more playing time, but still I think he's more of a complement to an edge one than he is someone you're hoping that can get to that production. Like that guy's just not there for the squad, which makes me hesitant to be like, oh yeah, watch out, ho ho ho, you know. So that's how I feel about the defense. I think they're probably going to be in this like top 12 to top 20 range. But when it came to my when I actually was ranking the defenses, they fell between 16 and 20. All right, we got to the point of the video where you know what time it is. It's time to look at my predictions for the New Orleans Saints. So let's go ahead and do that. And who dat? If you were here for my Falcons video, I had them. I kind of like. I said, hey, I got the Saints at 9-8. I have the same record for the Falcons as I do the Saints, though I think based on division record, Falcons got the nod as the division winner, but it could really go either way. I think very similar to the Falcons. I think this team is in like a 7 to 10 range when it comes to their win total. And I bet you their over-under is 8.5. Let me go just check that real quick. Over and under for the Saints is 9.5. I don't know if you play that. Like if you were gonna ask me to make a pick on that, I'd probably lean, because I got him at 9-8, and like for me, if 10-7, if like a lot of things go like right, I might be willing to bet the under there. Wow, 9.5, that's wild. But I do have them being good against winning teams, but so against losing teams. 2-4 in the division, but that could easily be 3-3. I think I had them losing both games against the Panthers for whatever reason, but they opened the year against the Titans. Don't sleep on the Titans. I've been saying this every video, and I don't think anyone's going to be listening to that. I don't know why. Don't sleep. Mike Vrabel has that team play hard. They get the Packers, so I literally have the Saints losing their first 3 games. And it's kind of tough that your one home game is against the Titans. So maybe they can sneak a win out there. They get the Bucks, the Patriots. Let's see, Texans. That's not bad. Like, remember, I don't know if I've said it in this video yet, but the Atlanta Falcons have the easiest strength of schedule. The next team for me was the Saints. So yeah, they should be capable of winning a lot of games this year. But I mean, there's a few of these that are going to be question marks. Like, I have them beating the Jags. That can't be a for sure. Like, okay, let's go through this and see. Let's look at games that probably are winnable. I'm going to go ahead and give them one of the games against the Panthers. Titans, opening day should be winnable. Packers, kind of a question mark, so that should be winnable. Patriots could be winnable. Remember, I'm just looking at the losses. I'm not gonna lie to y'all. The Vikings could be a toss-up. Coming out of the bye, like, this kind of sucks. Like, they come out the bye to face the Falcons, another division team coming out of their bye. So yeah, I gave it to the home team. I'm not gonna lie to y'all, man. I think I gave them more games, like more wins against teams they probably could and should lose to than vice versa. Like this Detroit, like, I think, if you ask me, I think 7 times out of 10, like, Detroit wins that game. But again, I mean, we don't know how the season plays out, injuries and whatnot. Jags, you could say the same thing. So, like, I don't know. I feel like I was pretty fair to the Saints. But you let me know what you think in the comment section below. That's it for the video. Go ahead, do the YouTube thing. But as always, until next time, you be easy, my friends. Later.